All right, welcome to the WTF Divorce Podcast. We are joined again today by Chicago divorce lawyer Jordan Rosenberg. Jordan, how's it going today?
Rob, doing great. Looking forward to a nice long Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely. Well, we're
Yes.
going to make it quick today. We've got some rapid fire questions, and the theme for today is questions that you want to ask your divorce lawyer but are afraid to ask.
Love it. Love it. Let's knock them out.
Let's get right into it. Question number one. Is it fact or fiction that some divorce lawyers will drag out your case just to run up the bill?
It pains me to say it, but fact. And I think that you'll find, and a lot of my clients find that, their previous lawyers or the lawyers on the other side, they just want to create issues. And they see a certain dollar amount in your estate and they say, you know what, we can fight a little bit more about things that you don't necessarily need to fight about, right? My clients, it's always like, look, it's the analogy. Do you spend 5,000 to chase 5,000? Do you spend X number of dollars fighting about hours in a day for your kids? I mean, that's a decision somebody can make, but I don't think it's doing clients a service if you're not directing them to sort of pick their battles. So I think that some lawyers are probably better than others about that, but unfortunately, got to kind of trust your gut there. And it's fact, and it pains me to say so.
Is there anything you can do? So, two parts to this question. When you're seeking out an attorney, you're going through consultation, that's a red flag that would pop up. And then along those lines, most people are already with an attorney running up these bills.
Right.
What's a tip for a conversation starter that can nip this in the bud?
Yeah. I mean, I think as a starting point, you got to do your diligence on who you're interviewing, right? And make sure that you're comfortable with that person, you're comfortable with their background. And like I said in our last one, you got to trust your spidey sense a little bit, right? Like you're a person, your lawyer's a person, and you kind of have to trust their strategy and that they have your best interest at heart. And so, like I kind of said, it's like if you wanted to have somebody else in your consult, be careful with attorney-client privilege stuff, but that's somebody objective where you can kind of walk through that with them and say, hey, what'd you think about this person, or what'd you think about this person? It's You got to kind of trust your gut, but to the point where if you're already invested in this person and you sort of got swindled into signing up and you're like, oh my god, we're fighting about everything, like the bill is out of control. Like I said, it's you're not unhappy with your car payment when you actually like your car, right? If your car sucks, you don't want to pay the bill. And if you're just getting these bills and you're not moving forward and you don't feel comfortable and you're not happy with your representation, it might make sense to start interviewing others, getting a second opinion, just like a medical issue, right? And how do you stop the bleeding? And where's my strategy to how to get this thing done? And what issues are important? So again, kind of a tip is trust your spidey sense and really analyze kind of where you're going and insist from your lawyer, how do we shoot the target and get from A to B?
And I like what you said about due diligence. And it really is the value of seeing videos and podcasts like this, because in 30 seconds, you can get your spidey senses to say, Jordan is after my best intentions. This other person is not. It can give you like a really quick, free way to analyze who you're working with. Question number two. Does infidelity from one partner matter in legal decisions like custody and asset distribution?
Another question that pains me to answer, but the answer is probably no. And at least in Illinois, in terms of a custody or parenting time, determination, unless unless your new partner is like has drug addiction or other addiction or mental health issue, you can raise issues about bringing your children around that person or with, your soon to be ex or your ex. But generally, it's not going to be a determining factor. And in the finance side, there's this concept called dissipation, where you're spending marital money for an outside the marriage purpose. And the classic example is, buying your boyfriend or your girlfriend flowers. And, that charge from 1-800-Flowers for $50 is something that's marital money that's being used not to, basically promote your family. So the theory is that the marital estate gets reimbursed for that money. So technical answer with the parenting stuff, probably not. And with the finances, maybe. But again, it's always that cost benefit analysis of how much are you going to chase and is it worth it?
It's interesting to hear because it's so emotional for the person and they want to, do whatever they can to get back at this other person. But just developing that awareness that when it comes to the money and the custody,
Yeah.
it's not going to matter. It can, manage your expectations for what you're getting into.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. It's like you want to move on with your life. You want to have a boyfriend, you want to have a girlfriend, you want to have a partner. And then it's like, well, are you micro controlled in what you spend and what you do? And then, your partner has to deal with that. So it's a lot. And that coupled with just the divorce process in general, it's brutal to hear an answer that it really just kind of doesn't matter,
Right. Next question. How will a judge respond or approach a case where one partner is claiming the other is a narcissist and is unfit for parenting time?
Yeah, great question. And I think this is sort of the new hot button issue in the divorce realm. And these mental health issues, especially narcissism, has become very popular in terms of the behavioral attributes and how that plays out in a divorce. And what I would say is, again, I think the general label is less important for a judge rather than the specific events and how that person affects your children or how that person affects your finances. The specifics are way more powerful than just throwing out the narcissism label, right? And I think it's almost like the boy that cried wolf, right? If you say your partner's a narcissist, being sort of that new phenomenon, the judge, I get it, move on. But it's really the specifics and, did this, did this, did this, did this, and then have a judge thinking like, wow, that makes sense, and let them draw that conclusion in terms of that overall label. And, that could paint the case, but it's really important to highlight some of those specifics rather than just the general.
And that leads into our next question. What is the purpose when a lawyer tells you to document everything? Is anyone really looking into the documentation that a party may bring of angry texts and emails or missed custody days by their ex?
Yep. I love that question, like I said, because it's something that all clients hear from their lawyers. Oh, document everything. And the short answer is you should be documenting, but it should be documenting the right things depending on the issues in your case. And to me, the purpose is a couple things. Number one is to actually have our client recall sort of the significant events that have happened in the past so that they can readily talk about it with a GAL, with a child's rep, with a judge, and gives us as lawyers sort of some ammo, so to speak, to put in pleadings or in an agreement. So to me, it's like you should not document every time you go to the bathroom. You should not document every time they're 1 minute late for pickup and drop off. So to me, it's always like the Sports Center top 10, right? Pick out the most significant events in your day, in your year, and sort of collate those so that your lawyer can be informed, that, again, like we're talking about with these specifics, so that we can rattle off these specifics to the judge that make sense, that move the needle in either a financial perspective or a parenting perspective.
And how about when people are sending you just, 10 pages of just wall of text screenshots, and now it's on you to sort through? What is that like on a lawyer's side when you receive that?
Yeah, totally efficient and great use of my time and your money. No, I'm kidding. But I think that to me, it's inevitable. It happens. And I think that in fairness to our clients, a lot of the things that happen on a day-to-day basis are of importance, and they don't know what's not important, what is important. So to me, getting all that information, it could be good depending on the issues, but generally I would work with your lawyer and make sure that it's in a streamlined, organized fashion, how you're transmitting information to them. And that's a really, really key component, I think, to any representation, and be on the same page with how to communicate, what information to share and what not to share.
And I think that goes back to the other question of saving money and not running up a bill. If you can highlight, 3 lines in a long email, that might take your lawyer 5 minutes to look at instead of 2 hours of sorting through that mess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Hit the highlights.
All right. Last question. Do you have any control or say on whether your partner brings your kids around their new spouse?
So sort of similar to one of the questions we just talked about, but the answer is yes, with an asterisk. And what I mean by that is you can put whatever provisions you want sort of governing behavior with new spouses, new girlfriends, new boyfriends, new partners. The question is really about policing it. And let's say you have a provision in your judgment that says you can't introduce a new person to your kids within 6 months after the judgment's entered. Okay, that's great. But the question always is, well, if they violate it, then what? What's the remedy? What's the resolve? Like, how do we fix it? Because you've already rang the bell. You've already introduced your kids to the significant other. So it's always this cost benefit analysis. It's always like, well, again, like, does it really matter? And I appreciate that it matters from an emotional perspective. Absolutely. In terms of a legal perspective, it's like, okay, do you get your hand slapped? Maybe. Is it part of a larger exhibition of violating the orders? That could be persuasive. But in and of itself, if you introduce with 5 months instead of 6 months, probably not going to matter. And again, like you said, Rob, it's always that, cost benefit analysis type thing.
Well, it's good to know, good to hear from a divorce attorney, because when you're going through it, all you know is what you're feeling. And if we're trying to get this done quick, save time, save money, these are the kind of tips that can help everybody move on, which is the goal of all of this.
Yeah. And at least if not move on, then control what you can control, right? And control your own emotions, your own expectations. And if you're expecting that, your partner's going to walk the line, and whether or not it's compliant or not compliant, at least have that expectation, change your expectations and how you react.
That's a great way to put it. Manage your expectations, lower your expectations. It sounds bad, but like, find where to put your limited energy into.
Absolutely.
Jordan, thank you so much for being on. Let people know how they can reach out to you.
Thanks so much for having me. You can email me at jrosenberg@beermanlaw.com. We'll put it in the chat, or you can call my direct at 312-262-2567.
Jordan, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for submitting your questions. We will see you all next month with more questions.
Thanks so much, Rob. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jordan.